Hello, welcome back to New Rockstars. We're going to do something a bit different today. So, we here at New Rockstars, we make a lot of predictions about TV and movies, and surprise, surprise, they're not always right. And now the time has come for our annual self-flagellation, a discussion of what we got wrong in 2018 and a few things that we got right, because it's been a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Merrick Voss joining me today is Philip Molina.
We're drinking.
We're kicking back, we're thinking about the past, and
this is a regret-themed episode of New Rockstars.
And it's fun. It's fun. So let's take a look. Let's get started. And let's start off with HBO's Westworld. So in Westworld, the past year, I theorized that we could see a host version of Anthony Hopkins' character, Ford, and that this is who the Man in Black was talking to in the trailer. So you can, if you go watch our trailer breakdown, you can see where that happens. So what actually happened is I believe he was talking to the character Lawrence, and that Ford was like uploaded to Westworld's version of the cloud. But in the trailer, there's like a part where you kind of see someone who's wearing like a black vest, a white shirt. It seems you only see him from behind, and I'm like, oh, what if Ford comes back in the park as a younger version of himself?
Right.
And that's how I'll get rebooted.
As a host.
As a host.
Right?
I'm like, they've improved the technology to de-age people. They can show it for several minutes at a time. They have HBO's budget on things. I was way wrong.
I was furious with you when you said this. Even in the moment, this is probably the worst mistake that you've ever made.
It keeps me up at night.
And I bet a lot of people watching are like, I'm so glad they brought this one up. I know they probably forgot for a while and forgot Westworld was last year. Those of you
lone shooters out there can just cross this one off your list.
Fine. They repented. No, come on. This is the kind of thing. You've made some doozy mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, I don't feel bad calling them out because I've signed off on pretty much every prediction you made too. We have a conversation about most of these before you put your face, and you're the one that says it, and then I get to stay in the background and succeed when you get it right and scurry away when you don't.
It's an imperfect science that you have to throw so much against the wall, and some of it will stick, and then you can just claim success on the things that do stick. But a lot of the stuff just you forget you ever said. But I think we have a pretty good track record. Yes, the ones that we get wrong are hilariously wrong, and that's why it's fun to look back at them, because if you want to knock it out of the park, you got to swing hard. You got to swing away at the fastballs, and some of them are going to whiz by the bat. All of them was by the bat.
You landed that metaphor.
Yeah. I slid into a touchdown.
Okay, well, almost. This is a good example, though, also of it's we had to search for the things we got wrong. You don't do so bad. We do a lot of research and try really hard to take some really solid guesses. So I think there's some pride here, even though we have shame and about these moments, especially. In that text message thread where we just go off on each other constantly.
Ooh,
but
you got your hands on that.
Yeah, speaking of our next most rage-inducing mistake, but this one was a bummer, though, that we didn't get this one right. We made an entire freaking video about why Logan would win the Best Screenplay Oscar. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it didn't. Yeah, weirdly, it's like the Academy didn't even watch the video.
Yeah, why aren't they? I thought all of our subscribers were Academy voters. It was nominated. It turns out what actually won was the adaptation of Call Me by Your Name, which
is barely featuring superhero heroics in any way.
I mean, there might have been some background story. I'm sure we could do a theory video and retcon some superhero in this memoir of a young. Yeah,
it's a radioactive. Was it Peach or something? Was it? Or something.
It gave you some kind of power, but that ain't no normal Peach. It's a fantastic script, and I think even though it didn't win, it's worth reading. I think we were just so happy and excited to see a superhero adaptation that actually has an artful approach. I mean, we compared it to the script in the movie Unforgiven, the Clint Eastwood Western, which swept the Oscars. People love, the Academy voters love Westerns.
Well, and I think that we were going out on a limb, and it was a little less about is this script good enough to win? We thought it was good enough to win. We were kind of going out on the limb of, is the Academy ready to go? Okay, some of these movies are freaking good. Some of these superhero movies.
Yeah, it seems like they're getting closer to it, especially with Into the Spider-Verse. This year is getting a lot of attention, and looks like it could at least win the animated category, but hopefully will score a nomination for Best Picture. Will it win? Probably not. Because once you get to that point, once they cross that threshold, you really just talk about politics and numbers, and it really weirdly is a numbers game. And you start looking at what is the political message of the movie? What kind of year is it right now?
Right.
Is it the year of women, or is it the year of representation? Is it a year where like journalism wants to be celebrated? So a lot of these like the year Spotlight one was the year where people wanted to like hurrah journalism.
Right.
So it's a weirdly like political question to ask which movie will win Best Picture.
Well, which was why they were trying to satisfy that with that popcorn Oscar, basically, which movie had the best tasting popcorn. And then, but Logan, like, I remember that was an example of a movie I was like, I don't want it to win a stupid popcorn one. Like,
I want to win the real thing.
It's so much better than that.
Yeah, and that's why they dialed back that popcorn thing.
But now they're going back and saying maybe we will do the popcorn thing. I think they're just trying to tease us into watching.
Yeah,
like,
that's honestly what it is. Another weird political numbers game at that point.
Right.
Where they're just trying to get more superhero movies so that people will watch it.
Yeah. What else we get wrong?
Okay, well, in the Venom trailer breakdown, I speculated that we would see all 5 of the Life Foundation symbiotes.
Idiot.
What was I thinking? We saw one of them. We saw Riot. That was Riz Ahmed's one. But there's also like Scream, Agony, Lasher, and Phage. And I just thought because they were adapting the Life Foundation storyline from the Venom Lethal Protector storyline that we would see all 5. I even looked into like color. I think color lighting in trailers is the thing that trips me up the most because I'm like, oh, it's a slightly yellow light. That means it must be.
We got a
Agony.
real bad one coming down later. That's just based on colors.
It's just a certain color just completely threw me off. But we saw Riot. I think that's probably for the best, right? That I was wrong on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think to me that it was kind of, no offense because I knew this the whole time that you were wrong on that, but I was like, that's what they want for a sequel. Like, that's how they keep designing these things, right? Is like, let's introduce them to one weird thing, and then for the sequel, let's give them way too many of the same thing.
Right. Yeah. In the comics, they can get away with this because comics are all about, like, just throwing so many different colors at people as possible. So, like, if you're a kid opening up this comic book, it's awesome to see different, Venom spinoffs that each is a different color. You can identify. They don't really have clearly fleshed out personalities. In fact, as they move on from the Lethal Protector storyline, they only follow a couple of them. They follow Riot a little bit. They follow Scream. Scream comes back. But the rest are kind of like, oh, yeah, they're still part of the world. They come back for another storyline. Yeah. But they aren't. This is another example of creatives trying to throw as much against the wall, see what sticks, and hopefully just run with the stuff and claim success on those.
You know what's interesting is I think that, I think we're kind of in the middle on how much we liked Venom. I think there was things we liked, things we didn't like. I would say that even though I kind of a second ago jokingly said like this would be way too many, there is a entirely different structure of a movie that does have, a lot of these symbiotes out there. And it's a little bit more like Invasion of the Body Snatchers or something, where it's like think Eddie Brock is like riding a train, and it's that kind of paranoia of like how many people on this train might actually be a symbiote. And like just that distrust of the world around him also reminds me a little, especially because they can move from each other. Then a little bit of that other movie that we reference sometimes with the whistling. It gives away who has currently is it a Denzel movie?
Oh, I am blanking.
You guys know we reference this movie kind of a lot weirdly. But yeah, it's like a murderer. It keeps like shifting bodies, and you can tell because he's the one whistling. You guys will correct us in next year's video.
I mean, you do see that in like The Thing and The Faculty and some of these things. Like figure out which of us is.
The Thing is a great example too, especially because it's in that contained location. You guys got to watch The Thing if you haven't seen that. The Thing is basically it's like a better version of what Venom.
Yeah, The Thing was definitely a reference point for Venom, not just in the whole idea of like, oh, this shape-shifting thing, but like the visuals they tried to reference. I mean, they did use a lot of CGI, whereas Carpenter famously used practical effects.
So we'll see, because actually, like, once I hear that amazing pitch, whoever just came up with that, I think that's a sequel I actually would be excited for. So now we have to see whether or not the Sony Venom universe is going to survive. The movie did well overseas. And right now they're doing this huge push on the home release, the Blu-ray and the digital, that like it could make enough money where we might actually get to see something like that, which could be cool actually.
Yeah, Sony seems to be getting back on the right track, I think, with their Into the Spider-Verse is one of the best adaptations I've seen, and that's actually a good example of how you can bring in a lot of different colorful characters. You just have to be careful about how you structure it. And those other 3 Spider-Man spinoffs that we had didn't come into like the second half of the movie and Into the Spider-Verse, so like they were able to like keep our focus from getting too diluted. But let's move on to another one. let's talk about the Avengers movies, because that's probably been a lot of what we've been talking about this year, is all the different directions Infinity War and Avengers Endgame can go. And then once Avengers Infinity War came out, we didn't really nail it 100%. There were the old Infinity War trailer breakdowns, and in one of them, I thought Vision would lose a Mind Stone, but that he would be fine.
What would you say exactly?
He'd be a little rattled.
The Mind Stone, his brain being ripped out of his head, and he'd be a little rattled, have it like a hangover.
Yeah, just be like, oh, I didn't need that. It's just an appendix. Just toss it out. And
he gets like a tattoo to replace the spot. And he's like, no one will notice.
Princess. Well, this is certainly what the Avengers were hoping for, right? They were trying to find a way to bypass it. So I was just like siding with the glass half full mindset that Cap had in the middle of the movie. Like, there's a way we can bypass it. Sure, we can just reconnect the neurons. And you know what? The book isn't closed on this. We have another video coming out where I think there is a way that Vision could still be alive. Maybe a little worse than a little rattled, but
I don't know. I think if your theory is right that they can bring him back, then I'm gonna say you're probably right that he would just be like, ouchie.
Be like, oof, wow. I gotta sit down. I think the question though is like, where is his consciousness? Right? You can't just take away the Mind Stone and just say like, oh, we'll re-upload Jarvis into this, human vibranium infused body, this android, and it'll be the same thing as Vision. The Mind Stone is a key component, but is it his entire soul is in it? And if so, the Mind Stone isn't destroyed. Is his soul inside the Mind Stone now? And then they can just put that back.
It's getting real confusing.
It gets real confusing. That's why it's been a lot of time.
But if you remember when they were making Vision, also there was that idea that they could make essentially an android and it would be fine, but it did take the Mind Stone in order for it to have humanity and be what we've come to know as Paul Bettany, the actor.
Paul Bettany is gone. Vision is all that remains.
But so I just think that they almost made that point that like we can't replicate a real person. The closest we can get obviously is like Jarvis, but Jarvis is kind of Siri in comparison to Vision.
Yeah, he's like Tony Stark sense of humor Siri basically is Jarvis. But we talked about a lot of different theories. Another one that I brought up is that they were going to use Tony Stark's barf technology to go inside Hulk's memories. Was something that I brought up. I don't know. I don't really have a good explanation.
I actually don't know that I think that it's not going to get used before, like in Avengers 4 it might show up. I still think it's way funny to say they're going to use Tony Stark's barf.
Tony Stark's barf. Well, here's what I'll say about it. What I specifically theorized is this is something where there was like a color, basically. In one of the Infinity War trailers, you see that shot of Strange, Tony Stark, and Spider-Man on Ebony Maw's Q ship, and then there's just like a blue color tone to it. So I said, oh, this kind of looks like the blue color tone that was on Loki's face when he was holding up the Tesseract. Maybe they're on Thanos' ship in that moment, and they're rewatching it kind of like home video footage, and they're using this bio retro augmented framing thing, whatever barf is, to read into Bruce Banner's memories from the Hulk and see exactly what happened. Because I assumed that Bruce Banner wouldn't be able to recollect everything that the Hulk saw, which is normally the rule. Like Bruce Banner can't remember what the Hulk sees. The movie just went beyond that, and it caused a bunch of confusions, and we made a lot of videos about this, discussing this question of how can Bruce Banner remember what Hulk saw? They're split identities. Bruce Banner's supposed to have amnesia from every time the Hulk takes over. So that ended up bringing up a lot of other theories. So in a way that like us thinking about that did lead us to asking the right kind of questions. It's just our conclusions before Infinity War came out were pretty wrong.
Yeah, and I also stand by, like, there's still a second half of this movie that it could totally somehow use it. I'll also, even though I'm busting your balls, I think that doing stuff off of color is, I use that move too a lot. It's because we understand enough that, like, it's not easy to make, like, to have such consistency between two shots if they're not shot in the same moment, right? Like, a lot of effort would have to go into, like, let's make sure it's the exact same hue. So sometimes, this is a little tip for those of you trying to knock us off our tower here and you make your own trailer breakdowns. But a lot of times that is a giveaway. Is like you see two moments and there's almost identical coloring that probably is within seconds of each other, even if it's split apart in the trailer.
And that kind of scrutiny has led us to the right place before. Right. Like when I did a trailer breakdown breakdown of The Last Jedi, and there was that moment of The Last Jedi trailer breakdown where Kylo Ren says, "Let the past die," and he reaches his hand out, and they edit it to make it look like him and Rey are together in that moment. And all it was a different scene where Rey was at a campfire. And whereas Kylo Ren was in the supremacy, what was the name of the ship? Yeah, it was on fire after like all the fighting that they had done. So they made it seem like that they were the same scene, but just because I was like staring at the sword, I'm like, oh, they're not in the same scene. Yeah. So I was able to figure that out. Little did I know that the movie would bypass that by having these force time chats anyway, so they didn't need to be in the same location when they talk to each other. And
I like that you also explained why your eyes get really red sometimes in videos.
But now they don't.
Yeah. Speaking of staying on like the Infinity War stuff for a second, there was one where I was just like, that's a huge swing. In one of the trailers, I you remember you were like, I feel like you called me and you were like, I've got it. See this lady on the right here? Boom. Captain Marvel reveal. They're gonna just like that's gonna be her big entrance in the MCU. She's gonna walk in a hallway,
in a room,
just like, hey, I was in that room. Copy her. You thought this was her behind Cap. Yes. That is actually
Scarlet Witch.
It's one. But I appreciate the effort that went into this prediction. I feel like you actually had a theory based on like you were like it's an alternate take on the costume.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, this is another thing where I think color might have tripped me up, because
it's a tricky subject.
And I got into a Twitter argument with someone on this. I went
in. Shut up! I swear my life on this.
I screen caps things and I tweeted it back at this person. I even I went into Photoshop and said this is not the same color as this, and I was dead wrong. Eventually, I just stopped responding. You were completely right. This is the scene where they're walking into Avengers HQ. Vision is still a little rattled from his run-in with with Corvus Glaive earlier. And then Scarlet Witch, his girlfriend, is walking in with him. Would make sense that it's his romantic partner is the one with him. But for some reason, I thought that Scarlet Witch was not wearing blue jeans. I thought she was wearing dark clothes. So when I saw pants that were blue, I said, oh, Captain Marvel wears a blue
pants.
Jumpsuit.
That's got to be a superhero costume.
No one else.
I also like that, like, one of the most powerful member to ever join the Avengers, but they're like, but you're the newbie. You get to go in the back. Yeah. Like, she doesn't get to lead the team at all. She just kind of has to keep, like, catching up with them.
You know what it was? Part of it was conspiracy-type thinking, because the framing of the shot...
Everything is conspiracy-type thinking.
It's a pretty dangerous game. We have to be careful going too far, because this type of thinking applied to other things in life is not healthy. But the way this shot... This is a Super Bowl trailer, if I remember correctly. The framing was the editing was so fast, and you didn't see who was walking behind Cap. It made me feel like they're hiding something from us. And when you start to feel like some authority is hiding something from you, that's when you start to go crazy. Most of the time, they're not hiding things from you. It's just what do we say here? We don't confuse.
We're not hiding
conspiracy.
Anything.
Don't confuse incompetence with conspiracy. Most of the time, people aren't thinking about it as hard as you probably are.
Oh, don't acknowledge that.
Someone on the roof outside. It scared me.
Oh God, there it is.
Red laser dots on us.
Ignore it. All right.
And then, but there's another thing that we should point out about the Infinity War trailer that we were really wrong about. It wasn't just us. A lot of people thought that Thanos' natural facial scars, we don't know if
they're natural, but definitely
all Eternals have them. Or this deviant gene of Eternals, they all have the same scarring, and they are not given to him by Wolverine's claws.
So don't rush past that.
Right, yeah. Well, I think a lot of people saw... This was one of our first shots of Thanos in 2017's Avengers Infinity War trailer. And so people were like looking at it, and everyone's like marveling at how well rendered everything was, and it looked like actual skin that you could touch. Some people wanted to touch Thanos a bit too much in some weird corners of the internet. Yeah. But those three lines, I think people who are less familiar with it... I mean, you see it goes on both sides of his face, and it goes down his chin. That's just how he always looks.
They're very close together. Slightly delicate. Eric, I want you to show what it would have taken, what position Wolverine's hands would have been if I'm Thanos in order to leave those marks. Okay. At both sides. Oh. This is what you were theorizing.
That's weirdly like erotic and intimate.
It's not weird.
I didn't feel that. I'm just saying, like, if I were Wolverine with Thanos in that moment, it'd be hard to
That's
deny
what
my
that
urges.
would have been. It wasn't like some epic fight. It'd be like, don't go.
It'd be like Call Me by Your Name. Like one just hands the other a peach. That's just how they always look. And I think really this was probably a product of us wanting the X-Men to cross over. This is right around when we started to hear the news that the Fox Disney merger was happening, and everyone's like, oh
and
yeah.
we're like, of course they would have assumed that
Wolverine's
this
gonna be in
huge
this.
merger that needs to be approved by Congress has already happened. So let's go ahead and shoot a movie that has the number one most famous star of the other one attacking our new villain.
And
here.
must have been like a really shrunken version because there's
It's
like
adorable.
a centimeter separation between those scars.
Well, that's remember part of the negotiation. They're like, you can have little X-Men.
He's got to be an action figure come to life. It's gonna be Toy Story Wolverine, small soldiers.
Yeah.
So let's move on to something else that
They
happened.
just didn't address that at all in that movie.
No,
Yeah,
no,
fine.
and it's probably not going to happen until Phase 4. Okay, here's probably one of the craziest ones that we got wrong.
This is my favorite.
It's wrong on so many ways, so many levels. I thought Cap ate the Soul Stone. Okay, to be specific, I didn't necessarily say that he ate it.
You said, hey,
it might have been inside of him in some way. Maybe he is.
No,
Soul
the word
Stone.
you used,
Or-
I remember, was consumed.
Gobbled.
yeah, yummed up.
Or just laughed too big when someone threw it in his mouth and didn't realize he ate it. Oh well. Okay, I thought that maybe he had eaten the heart-shaped herb of Wakanda, and that could be the Soul Stone, because one of our theories was that the meteorite, the vibranium meteorite that crashed into Wakanda, created Mount Bashanga, that enriched the soil of Wakanda to create their strong vibranium armor and everything that they use for their technology, and the heart-shaped herb.
Right, you thought it was.
I thought that meteorite was the Soul Stone. Right. Now, the Russo brothers said that no, it's, or I think what it was Ryan Coogler said that the Soul Stone's not going to be in Black Panther.
Right.
But we were kind of reading between the lines and the semantics of like, oh, maybe the Soul Stone in its form, but maybe either he doesn't know, or maybe he's saying like, no, it's not the Soul Stone in the story of Black Panther. It's just a vibranium meteorite.
Yeah, I love that the director of the movie came out and said, no, the Soul Stone is not in this movie. And we're like, we got to read between the lines here. It's like, it's 5 words.
Yeah.
We're like, what does
But
he really mean?
like, I kind of blame the Russos for that, because they did tell us that Endgame was not the title of the fourth movie, and then it did end up becoming the title of the fourth movie. So it's on them. But one of the clues we looked at was the color of his eyes, right?
So I've noticed this thing about Chris Evans's eyes is that weirdly when you up the saturation on this guy's eyes, some of you have noticed this before because I've seen comments like, does he have 2 different color eyes? I don't know if it's something about the actor or whatnot, but one of his eyes like hues toward orange. Weirdly,
Just
when you
if
up
they hit the right light on it,
Yeah.
if the right Venom symbiote stands next to him, it reflects an orange color. He just has like blue eyes, which isn't. If you have blue eyes, I don't know enough about the biology. Doesn't it mean you have less pigment? In your eyes?
That you're seeing past the front layer. Right?
Yeah,
no
so
pigment
maybe
there.
that if you shine certain lights on people with blue eyes specifically, it starts to look different colors.
Maybe. I'll say that in this moment, looking at the picture now, it's like, the Bernstein Bears Mandela effect. I don't see it at all. Orange lights. I see a man with blue eyes.
Yeah.
Beautiful blue eyes.
But I think also it's like, how is Cap strong enough to resist the Infinity Gauntlet? Thanos isn't using the stones right now.
Right.
And that was an important distinction that Infinity War introduced, is only when the stones are
And you could
lit
see
up.
when he was using them, right? So we were just thinking like he should have been able to like smush.
Yeah.
Right, if he has the power.
Just like turn them into ribbon and tie a nice present bow.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I want to clarify there because that's actually like I think there was like 3 things you got wrong there.
Oh, lots of.
The Soul Stone is not the Wakandan root.
Yes.
Cap doesn't find a way to use the Soul Stone, and also there's you had in that video, if I remember correctly, you actually, in order to connect those, you had a theory that Cap would get injured and need to go eat that root in order to come back.
That I also at one point brought up the fact that the super soldier serum might have been derived from the heart shaper because they got the and that still might be the case. We don't know the entire chemical formula of Erskine's super soldier serum.
You don't.
He does, and he's dead. He's gone. But he said it was like some kind of mix of steroids and like a little secret ingredient that he put in there. It was
LSD.
probably marijuana. Yeah. But we don't know exactly what it was, and just assuming that they got the vibranium for his shield, they stole it from Wakanda. What else did they steal from Wakanda? Could there have been at some point some scientific exploration was like, well, we can use this to make our own Black Panther in America. And do it that
we'll call
way.
him Captain America and a real white
Captain
guy.
America,
And then
yeah.
these just got real political.
Yeah, very, very political. Yeah. I'm glad that we figured out where we're wrong there. And we had a lot of fun talking about that, right?
Yeah. The truth is, somebody else pointed this out to us off screen that they're like, no, you idiots. The Cap did not eat the Soul Stone. The Soul Stone ate all of them.
Yeah.
And that is very, very prophetic for where we think we're going in the next movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ate Gamora for sure.
At least. But then also, maybe
more.
every single person that got dusted.
Souls of the dead.
Now, to be fair to ERIK, though, by the by, we did, I'm going to give you a lot of the credit on this stuff. You got a lot of things right. A lot of things. Like, to the point where, like, sometimes it's hard to be right. I remember that sort of get a little uncomfortable for me with Game of Thrones, where I was kind of like, damn, like, I can see it all, ERIK.
Right, yeah.
It's so beautiful.
The past, the present.
Pain.
You start screaming Hodor as you held the door
Yeah,
shut.
exactly.
Yeah.
But like, for example, the end of Venom, I know, is something that you just totally guessed straight up.
Yeah, I think this is something that over-scrutinization of frames that you guys give me crap for sometimes. But yeah, there's a space shuttle behind Venom. And it's not so much that people didn't see that. This shot maybe lasts like half a second in the trailer. And so this is really just a result of me going frame by frame through the trailer, which we really do for these trailers. And I'm like, that looks like a freaking space shuttle. And I was just kind of doing some other research. I didn't see anyone else by the time we had shot it who had talked about it. And I'm like, they're going to go into space, or like space exploration is going to be part of it. So I just went into what are the different theories for how the Life Foundation could be exploring space. Because in another shot, you see something that looks like a space shuttle with Life Foundation written on it. So I knew part of Riz Ahmed's character's goal, Carlton Drake, was going to be space exploration, either harvesting more alien symbiotes, exploring their home world, and some version of that ended up being actually the case. So yeah, we can say, check, got it, success.
I like that entire theory is the things that sometimes we're trying to communicate when we have a word on a thumbnail that says space. It's that all of what you just said is what we were trying to say with that.
Right. If you just hit the space bar, you go to a secret Easter egg video. No, that's not how it works.
That's weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think it's so funny sometimes when we're trying to communicate something as complex as what you just said with just like the word like
One word.
boing?
Space.
Yeah.
Space.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if people are looking at it in the thumb. Okay. Another one that I think we got pretty right was the Crimes of Grindelwald. We did make a couple trailer breakdowns. This movie I feel like it kind of came and went. A lot of you guys are into Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter, but this movie didn't really make a big splash. But watching it, I was kind of like, I feel like I've kind of like predicted some of this, specifically the way Grindelwald escaped in the opening sequence when he escapes from the Thestrals prisoner transport from the MACUSA headquarters. I looked at that scene over and over again, and I'm like, are there two Grindelwalds in this scene? Is there someone on the inside who has his wand from like evidence custody who maybe used Polyjuice potion? And I just started throwing out these ideas, and I feel like a lot of you guys gave me some guff for that. They're like, no, they're not using Polyjuice. That's crazy. And it's exactly what happened. There was a MACUSA Auror on the inside who used Polyjuice potion, swapped places with Grindelwald, and he was the one who was inside, and the real Grindelwald was able to get out, get him to escape and disappear. And it happened almost exactly as I predicted. I missed a lot of other stuff in Crimes of
How'd you
Grindelwald,
feel about getting that prediction right while you were watching the movie?
a bit mixed, because I don't want to necessarily get everything right. I only like talking about like things where there's like an interesting twist. I don't want to predict the entire movie scene for scene for you. It's just if there's like some kind of like interesting concept or something that's like fun to theorize about, because I know a lot of the times we're not going to be right, but it's fun to speculate on the idea of, is someone masquerading? Is someone not who they say they are? Is someone using Polyjuice?
Is Loki the Hulk or whatever?
Right.
But what's I think ironic about in this instance where you're watching it and you're like, you sounds like you lost a little interest by being right. I think that's what this movie suffered from, and why it came and went, is that your average person, despite the events of what happened in the movie and the marketing campaign trying to shuck this, everyone watching this, every Harry Potter fan is kind of like, yeah, but the good guys win. Right? Like, we kind of know what's going to happen. We know what characters are going to survive to at least if not survive the day, survive to be relevant in the Harry Potter franchise. So it kind of took out that dramatic conflict or the stakes of it. Even though, I mean, I don't know if you remember, all of the ads for it were like, who will change the future or something like that. Like really trying to push like, no, it's not totally set yet. But I just think ironically, the same feeling you had is something that people actually might be able to relate to, of like why maybe they never felt that excited for this movie.
Yeah, and it felt like, seeing the third act of this movie, it got really, really complicated with like familial relationships and who's related to who. And for hardcore like Potterheads, it felt like there was some errors in the timeline of things, like characters'
people's age and stuff.
And possibly there were characters who were supposed to be someone's brother were actually their parents had died 15 years before this character could have been born. And I think that was part of the disappointment too. Rather than like a kind of movie that really rewards fans who are paying attention the way Infinity War ended, it kind of left those fans behind. I felt like Crimes of Grindelwald did, to try to appease an audience who's not really paying attention. And we'll see how this franchise goes. I'm not really looking forward to its future.
But a franchise that we are looking forward to. I think we should maybe wrap up on these things at least. I think it's a prediction that like we might get right. Yeah. But we're right in the middle of one right now.
Yeah, the whole idea of Scott Lang traveling into the quantum realm and using time travel down in the quantum realm through these time vortexes playing a role in Avengers Endgame. So we've broken down this post-credit scene for Ant-Man and the Wasp. We've broken down the Avengers Endgame trailer. We have a lot more videos coming out about how this could be possible. I put together my theory for how the timeline could work in Avengers Endgame. That seems pretty bulletproof, but there's a couple things.
Cut to next year. Why did I say bulletproof? Why did I get so mad at that guy on Twitter?
Yeah. But we'll see what happens. If you look at the Avengers Endgame trailer, the final shot of it, it's Scott Lang at the front door of Avengers HQ. Captain America says, "Is this now? Is this old footage?" Right. And then Black Widow says, "Oh no, that's the front door." But her answer doesn't answer his question. Right. And I was like, why is he asking that? Or is he just like saying, oh, because maybe he's confused because Scott Lang's supposed to be missing. But in the corner it says archive. Now a lot of you are saying maybe the Russos just put that in there just to screw with us the way
or maybe it's archive but still not through time travel. It's just like yesterday. They missed him by one day or something.
Yeah. But if you're gonna do that, why not show it sooner? Like the narrative possibilities are far more interesting.
Yeah,
if that's what.
And to be clear, we're referencing the fact that this is a prediction that was made before the Endgame trailer came out. This was specifically just after the post-credit scene, and we're really harnessing Janet's lines about, don't get caught in a time vortex.
Yeah, we can't save you if you do.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of just felt like, well, that's some.
It felt like the biggest Easter egg coming out of Ant-Man and the Wasp, setting up for Avengers Endgame. And even before that post-credit scene came out, there was talk about just little clues coming from the cast and from Kevin Feige, the whole crew, about like what kind of vibe Avengers Endgame, which at that point was just called Avengers 4, would have. Feige was comparing it to the finale of Star Trek The Next Generation, the finale episode, which is an amazing episode.
Would they revisit?
Yeah, Captain Picard goes through several different like iterations, and there's 3 different timeline versions of himself that he's trying to link to. Evangeline Lilly compared it to her experience shooting on later seasons of Lost, which of course delved into time travel and parallel
again,
timelines.
Like a simultaneous experiencing of various timelines.
Yeah, you see Kate in the future and Kate in the present day on the island, which expanded the whole flashback conceit of the show from the earlier seasons.
Right, and then Tom Holland said time travel.
He said it's about time travel, and he just handed us all the script, and so we
and backflipped adorably away.
So I think we're onto something when it comes to time travel. If not time travel, Rick and Morty style multiverse parallel timelines.
But
I think
some version of what is it, like a shared experience across time, which is very Interstellar.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll see exactly how right and wrong we were with some of these theories as we go forward. We still have Captain Marvel coming out, which may answer some more questions about some of the theories that are still up in the air. But for now, we're going to move on to...
Will she wear blue jeans as part of her outfit?
Yeah, will it be blue, or will I confuse that again? For our lightning round today, our producer put together a series of smaller mistakes that we're just going to list.
Real quick one-offs.
But these are the ones that we probably got the most grief about from you guys. It's just me saying a character's name wrong, wrong, or me.
Yeah, just the real dumbest things you've ever done in your life.
Yeah, these keep me up at night. So here we go. The first one in Deadpool 2. In my breakdown, I thought that his belt was the mutant dampening
Collar.
Mm-hmm. So in the opening frames of Deadpool 2, you see like it explodes when he tries to kill himself, and like his head flies at you, and he talks like, "How did I get here?" And you see like this thing flying at him. Like, oh, it's a mutant dampening collar that he'll later use to actually take the bullet. No, it's just his belt.
Yeah,
his belt.
That's totally a thing that shows up in that movie is the mutant.
It does.
Collar.
I just am a dum-dum and misread the thing.
Your parents don't even like you.
Yeah.
Now, this one. Oh man, God, this might cut too deep for you. Was it a Jurassic World sequel?
The Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom,
Kingdom trailer. You said a bunch of times that it was the Indominus Rex, but one time you said it was the Indosaurus.
And that's exactly how the tone with which I read the comments who say this. So yeah, it was in our movie breakdown of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which it's one of these things that isn't part of our big things that we talk about, but it's like, oh, some people are really excited about this Jurassic World franchise. Yeah, let's do a video about it. And they weren't that grateful, I would say. Some of you were, but some of you are real particular about like the exact syllables I used to describe dinosaur names, which you probably didn't know until this movie came out. And I did say it right several times, Indosaurus Rex, and it is a made-up dinosaur name. It's not even in any kind of whatever. I don't care. That's how much I don't care about it now. The movie wasn't that good, and
whoa,
it wasn't that good, so we shouldn't care about it that much. It's Indosaurus. And forget you guys who whine about.
This is going to cut to an apology video from like the statements I made about dinosaurs.
All right. Speaking of like made up monster names, so we did a breakdown of the Detective Pikachu trailer, and there's a bunch of Pokemon sightings in that. Some of them are just like on posters or advertisements in the background. And in the kid's bedroom, there's a poster that shows like championship league Pokemon and past like boxing matches. And one, there's very clearly a picture of Blastoise. And when I was trying to figure out who all of them were, I'm like, oh, that kind of looks like the Pokemon Loudred. Now, I grew up playing Pokemon. I know Blastoise so much better than Loudred because I kind of stopped playing the games around the time Loudred got introduced. But man, it is, watching it again, it's very clearly Blastoise. And it's so much that I had to put the terms Loudred and Blastoise on my Twitter muted words list because constantly getting tweeted about how I was wrong and how could you be so stupid and call that a Loudred. It's clearly Blastoise. What a moron. Well, you're right. I am. That was stupid. But
Eric, it's okay, man.
It's not okay. I want to be right about this stuff. I don't want to let you guys down. And I really did. And Eric, I didn't want Pokemon to be the thing I screwed up.
Tell me more about what happened in the gymnasium.
Brock touched me.
Oh, God. No. The not fun stuff.
His eyes were closed the whole time.
Next up, Walking Dead, the kid actor Coral.
Oh, right.
He gets a bit, and Eric, hey, he's immune. You thought he was immune. You thought they were going to...
I did not think he was immune. I wanted to entertain the question. So, right, we thought that Carl might survive. At the mid-season finale last year, Carl was bit, and then he died at the mid-season premiere is when he finally passed away. And I thought, Rick and Carl have been in a lot of close calls over the years. And I thought there is a theory that Rick might be immune. Even now, with Rick being brought to whatever this new community is, people are like, maybe there's something about his blood that is special and that maybe they'll be able to derive a cure from it. So I thought there is a possibility that Carl could be immune. And I entertained the question. And what, in past zombie films, what does immunity look like? Is Walking Dead different in that way? And Walking Dead has set the rules of its world to be different, that everyone has the disease. Yeah. And that's what, at least the Walking Dead show. I don't know if the comic books have been that decisive about how the disease infects people.
I don't remember.
But that was a big moment in the show when Rick said, that's what the scientist told me, is that we all have it.
Yeah, but you were wrong, and
wrong.
you should feel bad.
Yeah. Okay, and this is probably the most recent screw up. In the Avengers Endgame trailer, I said Natasha Romanoff's name was Natalie. I said it wrong a couple times, and some of you guys have been really good about calling me out on that.
Real good about it.
But
Thanks so much.
In fairness, this is something I'm trying to get this trailer breakdown out to you guys as quickly as possible. So what I've started doing is writing Nat, N-A-T, which is how that's her nickname. And on the formatting of the document that I use, it autocorrects to Natalie. Every time I wrote Nat. So some of the times I caught it, some of the times I didn't. And I'm like Ron Burgundy when I'm reading the prompter of my own script. I just read what's there because I'm just trying to get through it so our editors can start working on it as quickly as possible. So that's what I know her name's Natasha. And I'll say last year I whipped even harder and I called her Wanda because you shouldn't have 2 Russian female character names in the Avengers lineup. There's plenty of other female Avengers that you could have brought in. Why do you have to bring in Wanda and Natasha? And why not just call them by their superhero names? Just call them Black Widow and Scarlet Witch.
So you're blaming autocorrect on that one.
I'm blaming everyone but myself.
Yeah. That's what I was feeling. Great. And finally, another Walking Dead one. I think this one's fun because of what it made you do. It's pretty small. It seems small. You just mistakenly thought that Rick had killed someone and it was actually Daryl.
Yes.
But it wasn't like kind of like a casual like, oh, and that's someone that Rick had killed. What did you do instead?
I went off on Rick.
You railed on him.
Because this is something where they were in their wars with the saviors and there was a surrendering savior. It's like that moment in Saving Private Ryan where it's like, look, Ma, I washed your supper, and the GIs shot him, and he was supposed to be a prisoner of war. So a savior was surrendering, and like Rick had this whole negotiation with him. He's like, just come out, surrender, we won't kill you. And in the episode, Daryl shoots him, and it's this whole moment where Rick's like, whoa, are we the bad guys kind of moment. It's a real deep show there. But Rick, and when I was doing my breakdown of it, just somehow I got confused. And I thought Rick was the one who shot him. Like, what a moment of a loss of innocence for Rick, where he murdered someone who wasn't even like posing a threat to him. He murdered a young man who was surrendering. What has happened to our Rick? What a monster Rick is. How dare he? We must string up Rick and he must pay for his crimes. And people were like, Rick didn't shoot him, Daryl did.
Yeah.
Daryl
Rick
did.
was
And
the
Daryl
one
murders
that,
people all the time.
yeah.
Daryl doesn't care.
Rick was the one that was trying to get him out safe. It was the person who was most vouching for this guy's
negotiator is a murderer.
It's hostage negotiator.
Yeah, so things wrong sometimes. But
it's just the passion with which you do is what I admire
is
the
what
most.
you tune in for, right? Yeah. Now we've had a lot of fun times on camera, and a lot of the things that you missed happened behind the scenes. And we've been keeping track of some of the more fun moments. So actually, our wonderful editor Devin has kindly put together a nice little blooper reel for us from the past year. Let's roll it. Bloop.
After going through this trailer dozens of times, I'm gonna reassemble what I believe to be the timeline and chronology of Daryl Canvers. Daryl Canvers? Daryl Canvers sounds like a brand that you'd see at REI of like, like hiking gear. Oh, you got a Daryl Canvers? Nice.
Clint has taken up this mantle. Climp.
I think it's only fair. Episode 9 includes a Mace Windu Force Ghost. Yes, Palpatine! Yes, Palpatine deserved to die, and I hope he burns in hell! No, that's terrible. Let's see if I can do a better version of that. I'll do bloopers.
Probably not. I'm the only one that f***s up.
And then show the part where he goes, would you like to know what you really are? This war is just beginning. Soon, you're gonna take your Vegemite.
But we also got choked on something in there.
Gold and silver, it's like there's different variants of berries, and like if you collect the right ones, like they boost your Pokemon's level, or they do something for your, I was gonna see, it was like, oh yeah, a silver berry, yes! Like, oh geez, the time I spent doing that. I think I was in high school when that first, like maybe freshman year, played that game so much. Oh boy.
Yeah, I forgot some of those happened. That was fun.
Sam can't say anything right in real life, and people don't realize how edited he is.
We string together every
Every
word.
single word that he ever says.
It's kind of like it's a verbal version of those serial killer letters that they send on ransom notes, just stringing together letters from different words. And
yeah.
yeah.
Beautiful. Well,
it's just as charming too.
it's been a very
What a year.
fun year. I would say more hits than misses.
More hits
Right.
than misses. And the misses
Yeah.
are so much fun to see because you get to think about it and then you watch the movie and it's just like, oh, we were so wrong and the movie was so different than we thought. And you want to be surprised when you go see a movie.
I'll say that we've had very, very mild, like tiny conversations with people involved in making these movies, like the Marvel movies and whatnot. And there is this thing that they kind of address with like, you guys and people like you are what's wrong with the world. They're like, you guys have made us have to surprise ourselves. You know what I mean? Like, if it's easy, you guys are going to come up with it too, which is an insult now that I play that back in my head. But I think it's kind of like the Coen brothers thing, where the Coen brothers, at least in their early work, famously were like, if we can solve our problem in under a week, if we can figure our way out of a problem we've given our characters, then we can't use that because that's
Right.
too easy. If it's something that we can figure out from trailers, and just putting our heads together in a few hours, I think that these movies now have pushed themselves to be out of that reach, and I think we're ending up with way more interesting stuff because of it.
Yeah, I think it's fun to just like have these kind of nerd speculative conversations that we have with our friends and on like Reddit subreddits and bring them into a place where we're all like talking about it together because it's fun to be a nerd and to dive too deep into stuff and to surprise yourself with the types of wrong theories that you could have because otherwise it's just going to be some like dumb entertainment critic who just talks about something that you missed and they're way off about these things and I honestly don't want to read their reviews because they're like 50 and they've never read a comic book in their life and have no idea what the characters' names are. They'll call them Wanda sometimes when their name is Natasha or Natalie.
Yeah.
Who cares what they have to say? Well, thank you for watching, guys, and keep tuning in and let us know what we got wrong. We're not too proud that I'll just mute you after a while if you keep yelling Loudred and Blastoise at me.
Yeah, we should add a hashtag to that or something so that you can mute it over the year, but then we can use it for videos like this at the end of the year. Maybe hashtag what you got wrong, which is so mean, but it's still funny.
A
It's to
noopsie,
search for.
a new
Yeah.
Rockstars,
Or hashtag oopsies.
a noopsie. But we'll comment down below, tweet us at New Rockstars, and like this video, share it around, subscribe to New Rockstars for all the deep dives into stuff you love. And we'll see you next week and next year. We'll be doing this.
Yeah.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Bye-bye.